Alright, today we're covering operations with polynomials. On this first notes example, what's going to happen, by the way, is I'm going to do 10 problems that match up to the 10 problems that you're going to have to do on your own. And we're going to take a look at these. On this first problem, we're adding two polynomials. So basically, you should be thinking combining like terms. So the x cubes will combine. So negative 4x cubed will add with 8x cubed on this problem. The x squareds will also combine, so positive 2x squared will add with negative 7x squared. So that'd be minus 7x squared. And negative 7x will combine with negative 3x. So now I've got it a little bit rearranged. It makes it easier to combine like terms. So for this first pair, you'll combine the coefficients negative 4 plus 8 would be positive 4. And it will still be x cubed. Don't forget that your exponent doesn't change there. 2x squared minus 7x squared. 2 minus 7 is negative 5x squared. And then negative 7x minus 3x. Negative 7 minus 3 is negative 10. And then it's x to the first still. There were no constants out here to the end. So you just got to match up terms with these kinds of problems. Don't forget how to do that. On this problem, we're still simplifying. The difference is that this is a subtraction problem. So the first thing I want to do is just distribute that out. So 5p plus 4p to the fourth plus 8 will actually remain the same because you're distributing a 1 to all of those. Now here you're distributing a negative 1 to all three terms. So it is going to flip every single sign that you see. So it will be negative 1 times 7p to the third will be minus 7p to the third. Negative 1 times negative 3p to the fourth will be positive 3p to the fourth. And negative 1 times negative 5 will be positive 5. Now that we've done that, we can combine our like terms. I'm going to start with p to the fourth since that's my highest degree. So 4p to the fourth plus 3p to the fourth would be 7p to the fourth. I can go ahead and mark those out as I've done them. Next up will be p cubed, and the only thing there is just this minus 7p cubed. So I've taken care of him. There is no p squared, so we don't need to do that. We'll have a positive 5p next, if we're doing this in standard form, because that's p to the first power. And last up is p to the 0 power, which would be the 8 plus 5, which will make for plus 13 here. And that's the end of this problem. Next up, we are finding products. Really, the instructions could still be to simplify, but what we're doing here is we're going to distribute 6x squared to both terms to the 3x. By the way, x here is to the first power. So when you do this, 6 times 3 will be 18. X to the second times x to the first will be x to the third power. Do not forget that you're adding your exponents there. Now I'll multiply 6x squared to 4. 6 times 4 is positive 24. X squared times x to the 0 is going to be x squared still. So there's no x's to add to our repeated multiplication there. And there's my answer for number 3. There's several ways to look at two binomials multiplying each other. I hear FOIL a lot, first, outer, inner, last. But what I'm more comfortable teaching is double distribution. So I'm going to take one of the two binomials and distribute it to the other. So maybe I'm going to take the 4n minus 6 and distribute it to 5n and to negative 1. So 5n will get multiplied by 4n minus 6, and negative 1 will also get multiplied by 4n minus 6. Now I'll distribute a second time. That's the reason why it's called double distribution. So 5n times 4n would be 20n squared. N to the first times n to the first is how I got n squared. 5n times negative 6 will be negative 30n. Now I'll distribute with the negative 1 over here. So negative 1 times 4n, negative 4n. Negative 1 times negative 6, positive 6. Last thing to do is combine these like terms in the middle. So 20n squared. Negative 30n minus 4n will be negative 34n. Remember that your exponent doesn't change there when you're adding or subtracting like terms. And plus 6 is still at the tail end, and this is finished. We are simplifying. Don't try to factor it. You'd be undoing what you just did. We're still finding each product on 5 and 6. Now number 5, this is a perfect square. I'd really suggest you know how to do perfect square trinomials by using the form. But what I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to multiply it to itself. So I'm going to do negative 8n plus 2 times negative 8n plus 2 and simplify that out. So when I'm doing that, I'm going to double distribute again. So I'm going to take the negative 8n plus 2 and distribute it to each value in this expression. So negative 8n right here is getting multiplied by negative 8n plus 2. And the positive 2 is also getting multiplied by this negative 8n plus 2. Now what I'll do is I'll distribute these out. Negative 8n times negative 8n is positive 64n squared. That's the reason why you do math with a pencil. Alright, negative 8n times positive 2 is negative 16n. 2 times negative 8n is negative 16n. And 2 times 2 is positive 4, which will go to 64n squared, has nothing to combine with. Negative 16n minus 16n is negative 32n, and positive 4 will be at the end, which does match this form I was referencing earlier that you should have seen by now. And if you're going to just use this form to get straight to the answer, that's fine. That's much better instead of multiplying all this out like this. On this last product, we got a trinomial out here, but if you continue with the same process, it's actually going to be not too bad. So we're just going to take this whole trinomial and distribute it to the 2b and distribute it to the 2. What that's going to look like, 2b will get multiplied by 3b squared plus 7b plus 2. But the positive 2 here will also get multiplied by it. So positive 2 times 3b squared plus 7b plus 2. Now that I've written all that out, I can distribute this out. So 2b times 3b squared will be 6b cubed. Don't forget that this is b to the first. So 1 and 2 made b to the third. 2 times 3 is where the 6 came from. 2b times 7b will be positive 14. b to the first times b to the first is going to make b squared. And 2b times 2 will be positive 4b. Now I'm going to distribute the second group. So 2 times 3b squared will be positive 6b squared. 2 times 7b will be positive 14b. And 2 times 2 is positive 4. Now we're going to start combining like terms here and be wrapped up. 6b cubed has nothing to combine with. It's going to be just 6b cubed. You can mark things out as you go along here. 14b squared will combine with 6b squared to make positive 20b squared. 4b plus 14b will be positive 18b. And 4 combines to positive 4 at the end. This is my final simplified answer for this product. On this last group of problems, you're essentially going to divide each term by the monomial that's given out here. So I'm going to divide everything by 9x squared. So 18x to the 7th is getting divided by 9x squared. Plus, I'm coming from here, 9x to the 6th gets divided by 9x squared. And then another plus, 9x to the 5th gets divided by 9x squared. So there's my 9x squared dividing everything. This is going to be the only time that I show this step. When I divide, 18 divided by 9, the coefficient will be 2. X to the 7th divided by x squared is where you will subtract your exponents. So 7 minus 2 will leave x to the 5th here. So every time you're going to subtract your exponents. Plus, 9 divided by 9 is 1. X to the 6th divided by x squared is x to the 4th. Option is to just leave that one off. Just plus x to the 4th would look even better. Plus 9 divided by 9 is again 1. X to the 5th divided by x squared. 5 minus 2 is 3, so x to the 3rd. While this is a great answer, usually on like multiple choice or something, you would see it written as 2x to the 5th plus x to the 4th plus x cubed instead of what I have written here. So on number 8 here, this is division by a constant, which is 4. There is no x with which you're going to subtract. So all these exponents are actually going to stay the same. So let's just divide each of the coefficients by 4. So if I do 12x to the 5th divided by 4, 12 divided by 4, it's going to be 3. And it'll still be x to the 5th. Since it's getting divided by x to the 0 right here, which I could write in if I wanted to. And I'm not subtracting anything from that exponent. 4x to the 4th, well, first of all, let me go and write down the plus sign. 4 divided by 4 is 1, and then it'll be x to the 4th. And then 4x cubed, go ahead and put the plus sign again. 4 divided by 4 is 1, and then it'll be x cubed. Or, like I said, just don't write those ones, and it's an even better looking answer. Unless 1 is a constant, but you would write it. Alright, on number 9, 45p to the 4th, when I divide that by 9p, I'm going to put a little first power here on this p to know what I'm subtracting by. 45 divided by 9 is 5. P to the 4th divided by p to the 1st will be p to the 3rd power. Don't forget that we're subtracting here on these exponents when we divide. 36 divided by 9 will be 4, and I put plus. P to the 3rd divided by p to the 1st will be p to the 2nd. And then for the last one, go ahead and put my plus sign. 27 divided by 9 will be 3. P to the 2nd divided by p to the 1st will be p to the 1st power. Don't need to write the first power. Whenever you see just a variable, you're assuming it's to the first power. And here's our last one. This is the only one where you're actually dividing by the greatest common factor out of this expression. That's the numerator. So what makes this the greatest common factor is 4 is the greatest common factor of all three terms here. And k cubed is the matching the lowest degree that you see for k throughout all these terms. So this is my greatest common factor. 12k to the 5th divided by 4k cubed. 12 divided by 4 will be 3. K to the 5th divided by k to the 3rd is going to be k to the 2nd power. Don't forget you're subtracting. 4 divided by 4 will be positive 1. K to the 4th divided by k cubed will be k to the 1st power. Now on this last one, here's what's going to happen. 8 divided by 4 will be 2. But k to the 3rd divided by k to the 3rd will be k to the 0 power, which would actually equal 1. Typically, you wouldn't even write that. As my whole answer, I just have 3k squared plus 1k, or just put k, plus 2. A lot of y'all would go straight from here to the last step because the k cubes canceled, as a matter of fact. Alright, that's the lesson for today. Please let me know your questions and stuff by email, and I'll look forward to helping y'all out the next time. Thanks.